Chapter 1170. Lu Ming was secretly shocked. There was actually a demon emperor hiding in this place, but he had never heard of it in the outside world. A demon emperor and so many supreme being powerhouses were enough to establish an overlord force in the outside world and compete with the heroes of the world. Ha ha ha. I didn't expect the younger generation of the demon abyss to be so good. There's actually an emperor among them. However, his talent is not bad, and his ambition is not small. Xiao Wan laughed out loud. There was a hidden meaning in his words. Obviously, Xiao Wan was referring to the other party's ambition. Now, he did not want to acknowledge Xiao Wan and dominate by himself. The other party was wearing a black armor and had a monstrous demonic aura. At this moment he snorted and said, I don't know who you are, but you're so bold. You're still a little bit away from becoming an emperor, yet you dare to impersonate the chaotic Sky Emperor. What a joke. Indeed, Xiao Wan's cultivation had not truly recovered to the emperor realm. He was still a little bit away, so judging from his aura, he was indeed not an emperor. That was also the reason why he was so bold. You guys go and see what ability he has to impersonate the chaotic Sky Emperor. The war-armored demon emperor looked at the dozen or so supreme beings. The faces of the dozen or so supreme beings changed drastically. For a moment, no one dared to step forward. They were hesitating. They had all seen Xiao Wan's statue or portrait before. Those statues or portraits were all engraved with inscriptions. They were able to engrave Xiao Wan's charm and aura on them. They were practically identical to the person before them. How would they dare to attack? What a bunch of trash. The war-armored demon emperor saw that the dozen or so supreme beings did not dare to step forward, and could not help but snort coldly. Don't ask them to come and die. You're very ambitious, but I don't know how strong your combat strength is. Let me test your combat strength. Xiao Wan spoke and strode forward. A powerful and terrifying aura rose from his body. Endless demonic aura gathered above Xiao Wan's head like a demonic cloud. You want to fight me when you're not an emperor? You're courting death. Demonic domain. The war-armored demon emperor shouted. A dark domain visible to the naked eye appeared around his body. With him as the center, it spread outwards and spread towards Xiao Wan. A domain evolved from intent. It was somewhat similar to Xian Yinqing's Sky Demon Force Field, but its power was many times stronger. On Xiao Wan's body, there was also a black domain spreading out. With him as the center, it spread out. It was also a domain. Their domains were like two bubbles that collided in midair and emanated deafening rumbling. This was a collision between domains. An ordinary domain enlightened spirit gods would be minced into powder if they approached it. Kill. 10 demonic sky strikes. The Warframe Demon Emperor roared and strode forward, unleashing a powerful attack. Sometimes he clenched his fist, sometimes he changed it into a palm. Together with the demon domain, he attacked Xiao Wan. Break! Xiao Wan's attack was very direct. His muscles bulged like a demonic weapon as he punched out. The punch caused the opponent's domain to tremble violently, and it was almost pierced through. Then the punch collided with the opponent's palm. The sky exploded like a clap of thunder. The two figures trembled and retreated. Immortal devil body. It's the immortal devil body. It really is the devil ancestor. Several supreme beings cried out in alarm, incredibly shocked. In the divine wilderness continent, there were many who cultivated the demonic path, and there were more than one or two who became emperors as demons. However, there was only one person who cultivated the immortal devil body in 1,000,000 years, and that was Xiao Wan. The other demon emperors broke through to the emperor realm and cultivated the spirit body, but they were not as strong as the immortal devil body. Spirit bodies were also divided into strong and weak. The immortal devil body was one of the stronger spirit bodies. Even if Xiao Wan was still a little bit away from recovering to the emperor realm, with the immortal devil body and his combat experience, he could fight against ordinary emperors. If some people still had some doubts before, they no longer had any doubts when the immortal devil body appeared. Chaotic demonic art, chaos of heaven and earth. However, the Warframe Demon Emperor's killing intent was even stronger. He performed an unparalleled demonic art, and endless demonic energy gathered. A terrifying aura filled the world, as if it was going to turn the world upside down. However, Xiao Wan's eyes were calm, and there was even a hint of a sneer in his eyes. His body directly rushed into the endless demonic energy. "You're courting death." The Warframe Demon Emperor revealed a ferocious expression and was about to attack Xiao Wan. But suddenly, his expression changed drastically. The endless demonic energy suddenly trembled violently, and his body also trembled violently. Then he spat out large mouthfuls of blood, and his face turned pale. Swoosh! Xiao Wan rushed out and struck the Warframe Demon Emperor with a palm that blotted out the sky. Bang! The Warframe Demon Emperor's armor was pierced through, and his body emitted cracking sounds of bones breaking. However, Xiao Wan did not stop. Following that, he threw another punch. This punch smashed half of the Warframe Demon Emperor's body and caused it to explode. I created the chaotic demonic art. Back then, I passed it to the demon abyss and left a flaw. I was afraid that one day, the demon abyss, or the descendants of the demon abyss would rebel. Xiao Wan's voice was very cold. Just now, the Warframe Demon Emperor used the chaotic demonic art, but Xiao Wan caught the flaw and severely injured him. Xiao Wan had already left a backup plan. Xiao Wan's claw grabbed the Warframe Demon Emperor's neck and said with killing intent, "Traitors should be killed. No, demon ancestor, please spare me, please spare me. Everything is a misunderstanding. I thought someone was impersonating you, so I wanted to test it out." The Warframe Demon Emperor struggled with all his might and begged for mercy loudly. Half of his body was smashed, but as an emperor who had cultivated a spirit body, his vitality was terrifying. Even if half of his body was smashed, he could quickly recover. Regrowing a broken limb was very simple for an emperor. "Oh, is that so?" Xiao Wan's gaze was still cold, and he had a faint smile on his face. Yes. If I knew that it was you, demon ancestor, I wouldn't have dared to make a move even if I had 10,000 guts. Don't worry, demon ancestor. Since you have returned to the world, I will definitely be loyal to you in the future." The Warframe Demon Emperor shouted. "Is that so? Originally, I would definitely kill a traitor, but now, I am in need of people, so I can spare your life. Make a blood oath, and I will give you a chance to redeem yourself in the future," Xiao Wan said. The Warframe Demon Emperor was helpless. At this moment, in order to save his life, he could only make a blood oath to be loyal to Xiao Wan. Only then did Xiao Wan release the Warframe Demon Emperor. The Warframe Demon Emperor panted heavily. Demonic chi spread all over his body, and he began to recover. "What is your name?" Xiao Wan asked the Warframe Demon Emperor. "Subordinate Moe greets the demon ancestor," the Warframe Demon Emperor said respectfully. "Subordinate welcomes the return of the demon ancestor." The others also bowed. I have been trapped for 30,000 years, and need the 10,000 demon pool to recover. Bring me there," Xiao Wan instructed. "Moe, the dozen or so supremes, and some spirit gods hurriedly nodded. "Lu Ming, little girl, come with me. I have something to say." Xiao Wan looked at Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing. The two nodded and followed Xiao Wan, Moe, and the others. They flew past the huge city and arrived at a huge mountain peak. Chapter 1171. Little girl, I've said that if you save me, I'll pass on my legacy to you. I won't go back on my word. With that, Xiao Wan pointed at Xian Yinqing's forehead, and a black light flashed and disappeared. I've already imparted my life's worth of cultivation experience and demonic arts to you. However, everyone's path is different. You can use it as a reference, but you can't copy it. Also, there's a demonic palace here. You can enter it to cultivate. It'll be very beneficial to your cultivation," Xiao Wan said. Xian Yinqing closed his eyes and sensed for a moment. He then nodded and cupped his fists. "Thank you, senior." "Haha, although we've been apart for more than 30,000 years, our fates are similar. There's no need to be polite," Xiao Wan laughed. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. This Xiao Wan was a man of his words. To be honest, along the way, although Lu Ming had the idea of borrowing Xiao Wan's power, he had always been wary of Xiao Wan. At this moment his wariness had lessened. At this moment, Xiao Wan looked at Lu Ming. Demonic chi gathered in his palm, and condensed into a black token. He handed it to Lu Ming, and then looked at Mo Yi and the rest. Brother Lu Ming is my benefactor. In the future, seeing him is like seeing me. He can walk freely anywhere in the 1,000 demon abyss. Do you understand? We understand. Mo Yi and the rest bowed. Also, the outside world is in chaos. Send people to keep an eye on the outside world. When I come out of the 1,000 demon abyss, I'll take you out and dominate the divine wilderness mainland. Xiao Wan said loudly, full of confidence. The demon ancestor is invincible. We'll follow your orders. Mo Yi and the rest bowed again. Xiao Wan nodded, then turned to look at the middle of the mountain, and strode forward. The array seemed to recognize Xiao Wan, and did not react. Soon Xiao Wan's figure disappeared. Mo Yi and the rest were shocked. The array of the 1,000 demon abyss was extremely terrifying. Even an emperor like Mo Yi could not break it. But Xiao Wan walked in easily without any hindrance. Obviously, this was the trump card left behind by Xiao Wan all those years ago. Young Master Lu, Miss Xia, the demon ancestor needs time to recover. The two of you can move around freely. If you need anything, feel free to look for me. Mo Yi looked at Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing and smiled. He could see that Xiao Wan seemed to value Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing very much. He even passed down his mantle to Xian Yinqing in front of them. Naturally, he had to treat him politely. You're being too courteous, Demon Emperor. Please feel free to do as you wish. If there's anything else, I'll go and disturb you. Lu Ming smiled faintly. All right then, feel free to walk around. We won't disturb you anymore. Mo Yi said. Then, he left with the others, and arranged for people to go out and scout for information. Xiaoqing, shall we take a walk? Lu Ming held Xian Yinqing's hand and said. Sure. Xian Yinqing nodded. The two of them held hands and walked in the air, casually strolling around. Now that Xiao Wan had recovered more and more, the restraint of the prison-suppressing steel on him was getting smaller and smaller. He could stay away from Lu Ming without being affected. The two of them strolled around and chatted. During this period of time, the two of them had been running around and did not get along well. On a mountain peak, the two of them leaned against each other. The two of them quietly enjoyed this peace and tranquility. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. In these 3 days, the two of them did not cultivate, and only got along quietly. 3 days later, Xian Yinqing went to the demon hall to cultivate in seclusion. They knew very well that the divine wilderness continent was about to fall into chaos. In such an environment, the only foundation was to increase one's own cultivation. Otherwise, they would be drowned by the flood sooner or later. Compared to those overlord forces, they were still too weak. As for Xiao Wan, they knew very well that it was just an exchange of benefits. They saved Xiao Wan, and Xiao Wan might help them once or twice. However, it would not last long. In the end, they still had to rely on themselves. However, before Xian Yinqing went to cultivate in seclusion, Lu Ming imparted the Divine Gate 9 seals to Xian Yinqing. After Xian Yinqing cultivated the Divine Gate 9 seals, his combat strength would be stronger. Xian Yinqing entered the demon hall to cultivate in seclusion. Lu Ming also prepared to cultivate in seclusion on a mountain peak not far from the 10,000 demon pool. However, there was one more thing to do before he went into seclusion. With a wave of his hand, a pile of storage rings appeared. These storage rings were left behind by the enemies he killed during this period. Many of them were left behind by high-level spirit god experts. Lu Ming had not checked them all this time. Now that he had time, it was a good time to do so. With a thought, Lu Ming entered the mountain river diagram and began to sort out the items in the storage rings one by one. After he finished counting, even though Lu Ming was mentally prepared, he was still dumbfounded by the amount of wealth. There were more than 1 billion ores. More than 1 billion ores, what kind of terrifying wealth was this? Haha, it's enough for me to use for a long time. Lu Ming was overjoyed. In addition, there were a lot of profound crystals of various grades, and their value was shocking. There were some low-grade, middle-grade, and even high-grade profound crystals that Lu Ming had no use for. But he kept them for the Lu family, Hua Qi, and the others. They would be of great use in the future. There were also various kinds of spiritual pills, spiritual herbs, spiritual weapons, and so on. After all, There were dozens of high-level spiritual god experts among them. The wealth they had left behind was too shocking. Lu Ming was grinning from ear to ear. He sorted them all and put them away. During this time, Dandan smelled the spiritual herbs and rushed over. Lu Ming gave him some of the spiritual herbs and told him to recover well. After counting, Lu Ming began to comprehend the intent realm under the Enlightenment ancient tree with the help of the profound crystals. Now Lu Ming had enough ores. As long as he had a breakthrough in the intent realm, he could use the ores to increase his cultivation. Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, 3 months had passed. On this day, Lu Ming sensed something and came out of the mountain river diagram. He looked in the direction of the 10,000 demon pool. Above the 10,000 demon pool, demonic clouds gathered and demonic chi filled the sky. A supreme pressure spread out. Lu Ming knew that Xiao Wan had come out of seclusion. Buzz! Lu Ming's spine glowed. Lu Ming felt that the fragment of the prison-suppressing steel was vibrating slightly. With a thought, Lu Ming rose into the air and flew towards the 10,000 demon pool. Whoosh! Demonic chi surged and finally gathered together. Xiao Wan's figure appeared. After 3 months, the aura emitted from Xiao Wan's body was terrifying. It was as vast as an abyss and unfathomable. Every single one of his muscles seemed to possess a destructive power that could destroy everything. Lu Ming understood that Xiao Wan had completely recovered to the ruler realm. As for what level he had reached, Lu Ming had no idea. At this moment, Mo Yi and the others also flew over. However, with a wave of Xiao Wan's hand, they all stopped in the distance and did not approach. Buzz! At this moment, the fragment of the prison-suppressing steel flew out from Lu Ming's body. It quickly grew to the size of a mountain and flew towards Xiao Wan, floating above his head. Boom! Chapter 1172. Bang! 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 Subsequently, Xiao Wan's palm continuously slapped the remnant piece of the prison-suppressing monument. After 36 consecutive slaps, the remnant piece of the prison-suppressing monument hummed and flew back to Lu Ming, floating above Lu Ming's head. Lu Ming sensed carefully and noticed that Xiao Wan had completely broken free from the suppression of the prison-suppressing monument and was completely free. Xiao Wan had said before that he could only completely break free from the suppression of the prison-suppressing monument once he recovered his Emperor Realm cultivation. Huff! Xiao Wan let out a long breath, and his eyes revealed excitement. He had been suppressed by the prison-suppressing monument for 30,000 years, and at this moment, he could be considered to have truly broken free. Lu Ming looked at Xiao Wan and didn't say anything. At this moment, Xiao Wan also looked at Lu Ming. Their eyes met, and each of them had their own thoughts. After a short while, Xiao Wan spoke first. Lu Ming, how about we form an alliance? Lu Ming was slightly stunned by these words. Now, Xiao Wan had completely broken free from the suppression of the prison-suppressing monument. Lu Ming thought of many things that Xiao Wan would say, even turning hostile. Lu Ming thought of all of them, but he never expected that Xiao Wan would actually want to form an alliance with him. Xiao Wan was a figure that roamed the world, and his cultivation had already recovered to the Emperor realm. Coupled with Mo Yi and other powerful subordinates, his strength was formidable. As for Lu Ming, he was only at the 4th level of the spirit god realm. Why would Xiao Wan form an alliance with him? What did an alliance represent? It represented that both sides were equal, on equal footing. Lu Ming couldn't figure it out. At this moment, countless thoughts flashed through Lu Ming's mind. Lu Ming, I know you're surprised. To be honest, with your current strength, you're simply not qualified to form an alliance with me. However, your talent is something I've never seen before in my life. Perhaps I'll need your help in the future. Xiao Wan seemed to have seen through Lu Ming's thoughts and explained. What are your specific conditions? Lu Ming asked. To be honest, he was very tempted to form an alliance with Xiao Wan. His current strength was still weak. Not to mention that the Talisman Puppet sect was currently trapped. Even if it wasn't, there were no sovereigns overseeing it. It would be very difficult for them to contend against the Overlord forces. He indeed needed powerful reinforcements. If he could really form an alliance with Xiao Wan, and be on equal footing without being restricted by Xiao Wan, It would be a good choice. My condition is very simple. I have my eyes on your future. With your talent, you will definitely become an emperor in the future. It won't be too difficult for you to surpass me in the future. With your talent, the divine wilderness continent is not your final destination. In the future, you will most likely step out of the divine wilderness continent. My condition is that if you step out of the divine wilderness continent in the future and join a great force in the Yuan continent, you have to think of a way to let me join that great force as well. Xiao Wan opened his mouth and stated his condition. Xiao Wan's words were very direct. It was clear that Xiao Wan was interested in his future. This was like an investment. He wanted to invest in Lu Ming. A cultivator should pursue the peak of the martial Tao and fight against the heavens. An emperor can only live for 10,000 years, at most 20,000 years, before turning into dust. Only by breaking through to a higher realm can one fight for more lifespan. It is said that a saint can live for 100,000 years. How carefree is that? Only one's cultivation is real. Everything else is just an empty title. Unfortunately, I have been suppressed for 30,000 years and have long passed my peak age. It is already impossible for me to join a great force like the Yuan continent. Xiao Wan sighed, and a yearning look appeared in his eyes. The peak of the martial Tao, and an even longer lifespan, were the lifelong pursuits of every cultivator. From Xiao Wan's words, Lu Ming could hear the helplessness in his tone. Originally, with Xiao Wan's talent, if he hadn't been suppressed for 30,000 years, it was possible for him to join a great force in the Yuan continent. But now it was impossible, and he needed help. Therefore, he proposed such a condition to Lu Ming. Lu Ming's talent was even higher than his when he was young. Lu Ming, this is my condition. If you agree, we will form an alliance and be on equal footing. My force will be your force. I can help you deal with strong enemies. I guess you must have offended many strong enemies along the way. Xiao Wan stared at Lu Ming and said, "All right, I agree." Lu Ming pondered for a moment and nodded. Xiao Wan made it clear. In fact, this was an exchange of interests. Sometimes, Lu Ming was more willing to believe in an exchange of interests as it was more realistic. If Xiao Wan had said that he agreed to form an alliance with Lu Ming to thank him for saving his life, Lu Ming wouldn't have believed him. All right. Xiao Wan was delighted. He waved his hand in the air, and a complicated blood-red inscription pattern appeared. I will now swear a blood oath to form an alliance with Lu Ming. Xiao Wan was decisive. He immediately swore a blood oath to form an alliance with Lu Ming. Then Lu Ming also noticed the blood oath. Haha, all of you come here. Xiao Wan looked at Mo Yi and the others. Mo Yi and the others flew over. As you saw just now, Lu Ming and I have formed an alliance. We are on equal footing. I announce that from now on, Lu Ming and I will be the supreme commanders. His authority is the same as mine. From now on, seeing him is like seeing me. Do you understand? Xiao Wan instructed. I understand. Although Mo Yi and the others had 1,000 doubts in their hearts, they could only nod. Was this young man's talent really higher than the demon ancestors? Mo Yi and the others found it hard to believe. Mo Yi, during this period of time, you have sent people to inquire about the outside world. How is the situation in Zhongzhou state now? Xiao Wan asked. It's chaotic. The outside world is in chaos. Immediately, Mo Yi introduced the information he had gathered during this period of time. Ever since Xiao Wan took out the Heavenly King token in the Holy City, a battle between emperors had begun. The world was shocked when Wu Ju and Emperor Wu were killed. Following that, the emperors of the various overlord forces in Zhongzhou state moved out and gathered in the Holy City to fight for the Heavenly King token. In the end, the imperial family was forced to hand over the Heavenly King token under pressure. As a result, an earth-shattering battle broke out between the emperors. That battle could be said to be the most intense and tragic battle after Xiao Wan's rebellion 30,000 years ago. More than 20 emperors participated in the battle, and a terrifying battle unfolded. In that battle, many emperors were injured, and 2 of them even died on the spot. In the end, the Heavenly King token fell into the hands of the heaven-guarding divine army. After this battle, Zhongzhou state was in complete chaos. First, the Xia family of the imperial family gathered their allied forces and sent out an army to attack the heaven-guarding divine army. The heaven-guarding divine army was not to be outdone. They also joined forces with their allied forces and mobilized an army to fight a fierce battle with the imperial family. As for the other overlord forces that did not participate in the battle between the two forces, they also began to attack each other. In the past, although the major forces were constantly in conflict with each other, they were still controlled on a small scale and maintained a delicate balance. However, in the battle for the Heavenly King token, the balance was completely broken. The Xia family of the imperial family and the heaven-guarding divine army attacked each other. The remaining overlord forces also took the opportunity to expand their strength and fought endlessly. Chapter 1173. The worst were Ji family and Sky Eagle Fort. In the battle for the Heavenly King token, the two sovereigns who died were the sovereigns of Ji family and Sky Eagle Fort. These two forces only had one sovereign each. Now that their sovereigns were dead, they naturally became the target of the other forces. Now these two overlords have been destroyed. Only 16 of the 18 overlords of Central Continent were left. How cruel was it to destroy an overlord just like that? How are the forces near the Chaos Realm? Lu Ming asked. Mo Yi answered honestly. Cold Blood Hall and Floating Mountain are the closest to the realm of chaos. After Eagle Emperor of Sky Eagle Castle fell, Cold Blood Hall reacted the fastest. They immediately sent an army to attack Sky Eagle Castle and divided up most of their territory. Some of the experts of Sky Eagle Castle also surrendered to Cold Blood Hall, which greatly increased their strength. Now Cold Blood Hall is at war with Floating Mountain. Today Cold Blood Hall seems to have attacked Floating Mountain's headquarters. Cold Blood Hall. A cold light flashed in Lu Ming's eyes. Cold Blood Hall had always held a grudge against him. How are the other territories? Did they fight? Xiao Wan asked. The Northern Plains fought. Earlier, sovereigns from the Northern Plains fought for the Heavenly King token. But now, the Northern Plains seems to be in a civil war. The forces in the Northern Plains are fighting with each other. They did not intervene in Central Continent's affairs. However, Western Desert, Southern Ming, and Eastern Wilderness did not fight. No sovereigns fought for the Heavenly King token. Mo Yi answered. Southern Ming and Eastern Wilderness did not fight? Lu Ming and Xiao Wan were surprised. It made sense that Western Desert did not fight. Western Desert had a long history. There were rumors that Western Desert had a strong background and seemed to be related to the overseas. But it was strange that Southern Ming and Eastern Wilderness did not fight, especially the emperors of the underworld in Southern Ming. They were all very powerful, aggressive and greedy. They did nothing in the face of the Heavenly King token. Even the sovereigns of Eastern Wilderness did not participate? This was very strange. Senior, what should we do now? After pondering for a moment, Lu Ming asked Xiao Wan. Go to the Northern Plains, haha. I don't mind telling you. I've left a backup plan in the Northern Plains. The Northern Plains Overlord Force, Demon God Valley, is the backup plan I've left behind. We'll go to the Northern Plains first and unify the Northern Plains major forces. Then, we'll sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight. We'll see the situation of the Central Continent and then make our plans. Xiao Wan laughed. Lu Ming was secretly shocked, thinking that the other party was indeed the chaotic Sky Divine Emperor, who was able to cause the collapse of the ancient Saint dynasty when it was at its peak. He was truly unfathomable. Even if he was suppressed, he still left behind a series of backup plans. However, if we want to go to the Northern Plains, we will need to use the Transcendent Domain Teleportation Array. Now that there is a war, who would want to borrow our Transcendent Domain Teleportation Array? We have to destroy an overlord before we can use their Trans-Territory Teleportation Array. Lu Ming spoke, seeing where the problem lay. Haha, that's right. So now, we have to destroy Cold Blood Hall and Floating Mountain. Lu Ming, which one do you think we should destroy? Xiao Wan said. Destroy Cold Blood Hall. Floating Mountain and I are old friends. Maybe we can form an alliance. Lu Ming said. Okay, then we will destroy Cold Blood Hall. Mo Yi, assemble the army and set off immediately. Xiao Wan ordered. Mo Yi and the others went to assemble the army. Lu Ming walked in the void and came to a tall and ancient palace. This ancient palace was the demonic palace, where Xian Yinqing was cultivating in seclusion. Not long after Lu Ming arrived, Xian Yinqing appeared at the entrance of the ancient palace. "Little Qing, let's go. I will take you back to the eastern wilderness." Lu Ming pulled Xian Yinqing's little hand. Lu Ming had another purpose for this battle. If Cold Blood Hall was destroyed, Lu Ming could use their trans-territory teleportation array to link up with the Talisman Puppet Sect. In this way, the Talisman Puppet Sect could use the trans-territory teleportation array to send people directly to Cold Blood Hall. In this way, the Talisman Puppet Sect's siege would be lifted. Even if DE broke through the Yin and Yang formation, there would be nothing to be afraid of. In addition, Lu Ming also wanted to see if he could use the power of Xiao Wan and Mo Yi, the two demon emperors, to get rid of DE. If he could get rid of DE, then it would be once and for all, and there would be no future trouble. "Lu Ming, has Xiao Wan recovered?" Xian Yinqing asked with some worry in his eyes. Obviously, Xian Yinqing did not trust Xiao Wan. This was a demon emperor, who could shake heaven and earth. If he fully recovered and got rid of the shackles of the fragments of the prison suppressing steel, who knew what he would do? Xian Yinqing was also worried. "Don't worry, Xiao Wan and I have formed an alliance." Then, Lu Ming told him about Xiao Wan forming an alliance with him. After hearing this, Xian Yinqing was relieved. Rumble! Iron hooves stepped on the air, shaking the void of the myriad demon abyss, and demonic chi soared into the sky. More than 100,000 soldiers, wearing battle armor and riding powerful demonic beasts, jumped in the sky, and the void kept shaking. The 100,000 soldiers were all experts of the Spirit Sea realm and above. This was equivalent to the army of an overlord force. The army of an overlord force had the Spirit Sea realm as the soldiers, the Spirit Embryo as the backbone, and the Spirit God as the general. They could destroy heaven and earth. 100,000 people, riding demonic beasts, gathered in the sky above the giant city. At the front, Lu Ming and Xiao Wan stood side by side. Behind them, Xian Yinqing, Mo Yi, and more than 10 supreme beings stood. "This battle is our first battle. After this battle, we will walk out of the myriad demon abyss and establish ourselves in the boundless territory of the divine wilderness continent. Are you confident?" Xiao Wan's voice came from afar. "Yes." The army of 100,000 roared, and their momentum shook the sky. "Good. In this battle, our target is the Overlord Force Cold Blood Hall. We have received news that Cold Blood Hall's main force is besieging Floating Mountain. In this battle, we will split into two groups. One group will be led by General Lu Ming to kill the Cold Blood Hall army attacking Floating Mountain, with Mo Yi as support. The other group will follow me to attack Cold Blood Hall's lair. Let's go." After Xiao Wan's announcement, the army set off. "Let's go." Lu Ming led the main force and set off first, heading straight for Floating Mountain. Rumble! A total of 80,000 soldiers, riding demonic beasts, stepped on the void, and followed Lu Ming out of the myriad demon abyss, flying toward Floating Mountain. Lu Ming rode on a great perfection spirit god demonic beast, flying at the front. Looking at the powerful army behind him, Lu Ming's eyes were filled with anticipation. Lu Ming knew that this army did not belong to him, but to Xiao Wan. Although he was still weak, Lu Ming was confident that he would soon be able to dominate the divine wilderness continent, have his own invincible army, and conquer the world. That day won't be too far away. Lu Ming's eyes were filled with confidence. After leaving the Chaos Realm, Mo Yi took out a huge warship. The 80,000 soldiers all boarded the warship, and Mo Yi steered the warship, flying toward Floating Mountain at top speed. Of course, they could not fly to Floating Mountain, as it was too far away. Many Sea of Soul Realm martial artists had to fly, and no one knew how long it would take. With Mo Yi's warship, it would be many times faster. Chapter 1174. The beautiful Floating Mountain was now engulfed in the flames of war. Cold Blood Hall had sent out almost all of its forces to attack Floating Mountain. Floating Mountain had activated its defensive formation, but after days of attacks from Cold Blood Hall, Its defensive formation was already on the verge of collapse. A fierce battle was still going on. Blood dyed the divine mountain red. Cold Blood Hall had always been stronger than Floating Mountain. In addition, Cold Blood Hall had acted quickly this time and occupied a large portion of Sky Eagle Fort's territory. Many powerful existences in Sky Eagle Fort had surrendered to Cold Blood Hall, which allowed Cold Blood Hall to completely suppress Floating Mountain. Boom! 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 A terrifying roar came from the depths of the sky. It was the battle between Cold Blood Hall and Floating Mountain. It was extremely fierce, and it was hard to tell who would win. The battle was even more intense in various parts of Floating Mountain. Cold Blood Hall and Sky Eagle Castle had many more Supremes than Floating Mountain Sect. In terms of Supreme Experts and Advanced Spirit Gods, Cold Blood Hall had far more Supreme Experts than Floating Mountain. Caw. In some parts of Floating Mountain, the defensive formation had collapsed. Giant eagles were circling in the sky, launching terrifying attacks. They were all Sky Eagle Fort experts. Sky Eagle Fort experts had just surrendered, so naturally, they were eager to be put in an important position by Cold Blood Hall. Haha, Floating Mountain, let's see how long you can last. Jing Kong Ling, when we break Floating Mountain, I'll make you beg for mercy under my crotch. Sanguinarum stood in the air, looking at Floating Mountain from afar and laughing coldly. Beside him, there were many experts following him. This time, the Blood Emperor of Cold Blood Hall had given Xue Luozi a lot of power and given him command of a powerful army. Obviously, he wanted to train Xue Luozi as his successor. Sanguinarum was Cold Blood Hall's future hope. Put in more effort to break Floating Mountain. When the time comes, you'll be rewarded. Cold Blood Hall's voice came from afar. His face was beaming with joy, high-spirited and full of lofty sentiments. Sky Eagle Fort, an overlord force that had been fighting with Cold Blood Hall, was still destroyed by them. Een Bupo, a powerful second-class genius, was killed by Sanguinarum in the end. Cold Blood Hall's strength had skyrocketed. Floating Mountain was about to be taken down. Sanguinarum could already see himself becoming the emperor in the future, leading Cold Blood Hall experts to conquer the central continent. Jing Kongling, Sandalwood Fairy, Lu Yusin, Xianyinjuan, you're all mine. Sooner or later, I'll take you all. Sanguinarum's imagination. Rumble. Suddenly, a deafening rumble sounded in the sky. It was as if there were thousands of savage beasts trampling on the sky. A loud explosion interrupted Xue Luozi's daydream. What's going on? He asked coldly. A blood-robed old man looked behind him with a solemn expression. Cold Blood Hall's heart sank as he asked. Demonic chi is soaring. Could it be Demon Mountain's army? It shouldn't be. Demon Mountain can't even take care of itself now. How could they have the strength to come here? The blood-robed elder frowned and whispered. Rumble. The tremors in the sky grew stronger and stronger. The entire sky was trembling slightly. Cold Blood Hall experts gathered to set up defenses and watched from afar. Gradually, demonic chi soared into the sky. Countless experts in black armor rode demonic beasts and rushed over. Finally, they stopped 1,000 miles away from Cold Blood Hall. Which force do you belong to? We are Cold Blood Hall. May I know what you're here for? Cold Blood Hall stepped out and spoke first. We're here to destroy Cold Blood Hall. A voice rang out as two figures stepped into the air and appeared in front of the crowd. It's you, Lu Shaoqing no Lu Ming. Sanguinarum's pupils shrank as he exclaimed in disbelief. It was Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing who stepped out. The other experts of Cold Blood Hall also widened their eyes in shock. A few months ago, the Xia family of the Imperial family activated the Divine Secret Instrument in order to capture Lu Ming, shocking the entire central continent. But in the end, not only did they fail to capture Lu Ming, but a series of major events also happened. It could be said that all of this started because of Lu Ming. Since Lu Ming appeared in Sacred City, he had disappeared with Xiao Wan. Who would have thought that he would reappear now? Lu Ming had appeared, so where was Xiao Wan? Fear flashed in the eyes of Cold Blood Hall experts as they solemnly glanced at Lu Ming and the others. Xiao Wan's name was so well known that it made them fearful. No need to look. The chaotic Sky Divine Emperor is not here. Lu Ming said faintly. Lu Ming, what are you talking about? Sanguinarum asked. Didn't I tell you just now? Destroying Coldblood Hall? It seems that your ears are not working well. Lu Ming smiled faintly. Destroying Coldblood Hall? Humph, what a boast. Even if Ciel Wan came in person, he wouldn't dare to say that. The imperial family has long spread the news that Ciel Wan has been suppressed for 30,000 years and has damaged his foundation. He is no longer an emperor. Don't think that we are afraid of him. Besides, he is not here yet. Elder Yuan, go and cripple Lu Ming. Sanguinarum gritted his teeth and said, Kill. A scarlet-robed elder unleashed a terrifying aura as he charged toward Lu Ming. Supreme, this was a supreme. You're courting death. Behind Lu Ming, a burly man stepped out with a giant axe and chopped at the scarlet-robed elder. Boom. The two of them trembled and retreated after exchanging a blow. Supreme. Sanguinarum's face darkened. Senior, I don't know why you were bewitched by Lu Ming, but it won't do anyone any good to go against Coldblood Hall because of him. Everyone, can you give us face and hand over Lu Ming and leave? Coldblood Hall will reward you handsomely. Sanguinarum cupped his fists and said to the burly man. In his heart, he was open to negotiation for anything. He speculated that these experts might be Ciel Wan's subordinates. But even if Ciel Wan came in person, conditions were negotiable. He speculated that these diabolism experts had come with Lu Ming to attack Coldblood Hall, because Lu Ming had promised them something. But how could a mere Lu Ming's offer compare to Coldblood Hall's? How could a mere Lu Ming compare to Coldblood Hall's value? As long as he persuaded these diabolism experts to take down Lu Ming, it would be a piece of cake. What an idiot. Young Master Lu Ming is the supreme commander of our army. He's on an equal footing with the Lord of Chaos Heaven Demon. You want us to hand him over? The burly man waved his battle axe and sneered. What? Supreme Commander? On an equal footing with the Lord of Chaos Heaven? Sanguinarum and the rest of Coldblood Hall were dumbfounded. Lu Ming was the supreme commander of these people, and was on an equal footing with Ciel Wan. How could this be? How could Lu Ming do that? Kill. Destroy Coldblood Hall. Chapter 1175. Demonic chi surged like thunder. Following Lu Ming's order, terrifying existences stepped out from behind him and charged at the Coldblood Hall experts. The Coldblood Hall experts, including Sanguinarum, turned pale. The experts charging at them were too powerful. There were no less than 6 or 7 supreme masters, and many advanced spiritual gods. Kill them all! Xue Luozi shrieked, while his body retreated. Kill! The experts from both sides collided, creating a shocking shockwave. Black demonic chi and crimson demonic chi soared into the sky and pervaded the area. Bang! Lu Ming stepped out and walked toward Sanguinarum. Sanguinarum, you managed to escape with your life amulet in the Saint Mansion secret realm. Today I'll take your life. Lu Ming stared at Sanguinarum and walked toward him step by step. Sanguinarum's face darkened. He retreated quickly and roared, Kill him. Lu Ming died. Beside Sanguinarum, a middle-aged man in a crimson robe charged at Lu Ming. He was a spiritual god of perfection expert. However, as soon as he appeared, another expert rushed out from behind Lu Ming and blocked him. Now let's see who can save you, Lu Ming said. The spiritual god of perfection expert was the last expert by Sanguinarum's side. The rest were not worth mentioning. Kill him. Sanguinarum continued to yell. 2 LV7 spiritual god experts charged at Lu Ming. Bang! Bang! Lu Ming struck out with 2 palms, and the 2 LV7 spiritual god experts were torn to pieces. How could this be? Sanguinarum's face turned pale. Lu Ming killed 2 LV7 spiritual god experts with 1 palm. How could he be so powerful? Today, no one can save you. Lu Ming took a few steps forward and quickly approached Sanguinarum. Save me. Patriarch, save me. Sanguinarum screamed in fright. Lu Ming could even kill an expert at the 7th level of the spirit god realm with a flip of his hand. Let alone him? He was really scared. The other experts of Coldblood Hall wanted to help, but they were all entangled by their opponents and could not get away. As for some experts, they were further away and couldn't make it in time. Bastard, you're courting death. At this moment, An earth-shaking roar came from the sky. Then, a blood-red light broke through the sky, carrying an aura that could destroy everything as it slashed towards Lu Ming. Ancestor, haha, Lu Ming die. Sanguinarum was overjoyed and revealed a ferocious expression. This attack was filled with the aura of an emperor. It was an emperor from Cold Blood Hall, who wanted to kill Lu Ming with one blow. But at this moment, a burly man in iron armor behind Lu Ming burst out with an earth-shattering aura. With a flash of demonic light, he defeated the blood-red light. I didn't want to besiege you, but since you're courting death, I'll fulfill your wish. Emoyi looked at the sky, his eyes cold. The next moment, he turned into a beam of demonic light and rushed towards the Cold Blood Hall Emperor. He joined forces with the Emperor from Floating Mountain to besiege the Cold Blood Hall Emperor. An emperor, it's an emperor! Everyone present was dumbfounded. Xiao Wan was not here. But other than him, there was an emperor behind Lu Ming. This was too shocking. Many people from Cold Blood Hall were in despair. The consequences of two emperors besieging a Cold Blood Hall emperor would be dire. Demon Emperor! Sanguinarum screamed in horror, his eyes filled with despair. Kill! Lu Ming took another step forward and appeared in front of Sanguinarum, striking down with his palm. No! Sanguinarum roared. He used bloodline fusion and turned into a blood-winged heavenly bat to resist with all his might. But Lu Ming's palm strike destroyed the blood-red light and shattered the blood-winged heavenly bat. Not only the blood-winged heavenly bat, but even Sanguinarum's body was shattered. Sanguinarum was dead. The people from Cold Blood Hall were shocked. Sanguinarum was dead. It was a great loss to Cold Blood Hall that this genius, who had the potential to become an emperor, had died. An angry roar came from the sky. What are you shouting for? You can't even save yourself today. Emoya's voice came from the sky. Roar! Lu Ming controlled the Nine Dragons' bloodline and completely devoured Sanguinarum's essence and blood. But Lu Ming immediately frowned. This was because the essence that Xue Luozi cultivated was the essence of blood, which was not of much use to Lu Ming. Only the essence and blood were of some use. At this moment on Floating Mountain, a beautiful woman was looking at the battlefield outside. She was Jing Kongling. Beside her stood several experts from the Hanging Mountain. Open the formation and kill with all your might. Cooperate with Lu Ming and attack Cold Blood Hall from both sides. Jing Kongling gave the order at this moment. Presently, the second-rate geniuses had matured and stepped into the domain Enlightened Spirit God realm successively. As these second-rate geniuses advanced into the domain Enlightened Spirit God realm, their statuses in their respective sects and powers rose along with it. It was comparable to some exalted figures, and it was even to the extent that their statuses were even higher than exalted figures. This was because it was certain that the second-class geniuses would become supremes in the future. They even had a great chance of becoming emperors. It could be said that their potential was limitless. The major forces had begun to slowly transfer some power to them as a form of training. Just like Sanguinarum, Jing Kongling also had an important right to speak in Floating Mountain. Kongling, it's too dangerous. Who knows if Lu Ming will turn around and attack us? An old man beside Jing Kongling said with a slightly changed expression. Yes, in these troubled times, Lu Ming and Xiao Wan have emperors following them. We have to be careful. Another person also spoke. Don't worry too much. Lu Ming and I are old friends. I believe in him. Open the formation and cooperate with Lu Ming. We must completely destroy Cold Blood Hall in today's battle. Otherwise, we won't have such a good opportunity again. Jing Kongling said in a firm tone. All right, we'll listen to you, an old man said. Then his voice spread throughout Floating Mountain. Open the formation and kill everyone. Kill. Kill. As the formation was opened, Floating Mountain gathered all their strength and rushed madly toward Cold Blood Hall. They and Lu Ming's men attacked Cold Blood Hall from two sides. Instantly, Cold Blood Hall was in a disadvantageous position, and their experts were killed one after another. Boom, boom, boom. The battle was the most intense in the sky, and the sky was constantly shaking. Suddenly, a bloody light flashed. An arm fell from the sky with a soaring bloody aura, exuding a strong emperor's aura. It's the Blood Emperor. He's injured, someone exclaimed. Especially those from Cold Blood Hall, Their faces were pale. The Blood Emperor of Cold Blood Hall is about to be defeated. Kill. Lu Ming's men in Floating Mountain took the opportunity to shout. Their morale was greatly boosted, and they completely suppressed Cold Blood Hall. Cold Blood Hall experts were killed continuously, and their bodies fell like raindrops to the ground. Chapter 1176. Unfortunately, most of the people from Cold Blood Hall cultivated the essence of blood, while a few cultivated various kinds of essence of weapons. It was of little use to Lu Ming, and did not help Lu Ming's essence at all. Lu Ming's cultivation improved rapidly after devouring a large amount of energy. However, it stopped when he reached the peak of the 4th level of Spirit God Realm. No matter how much energy he refined, he could not absorb it, and could only dissipate and waste it. Because the essence of heaven and earth did not improve, his cultivation was stuck. In the end, Lu Ming decided not to devour vital essence, but only blood essence to improve his bloodline. However, Lu Ming's bloodline did not improve even after devouring the blood essence of more than a dozen 8th level, 9th level, and even perfected spirit god experts. Both the 9 Dragons bloodline and the prison-suppressing steel bloodline were at level 8 of the divine realm. It was too difficult to improve from level 8 to level 9 of the divine realm. Lu Ming shook his head and smiled bitterly. Could it be that he had to devour the blood essence of a supreme martial artist to improve? Lu Ming began to look around to see if any supreme martial artists had been killed. Ah! With a scream, a supreme martial artist from Cold Blood Hall was killed. Blood splattered everywhere and fell to the ground. The fresh blood contained terrifying power. When some strong practitioners of the spirit embryo realm were splashed by the fresh blood, their bodies became riddled with holes. Fall back. Below, some of the myriad Demon Abyss and Cold Blood Hall troops retreated frantically, afraid of being splashed by the blood. Supreme Martial Artist Blood Essence. Lu Ming's eyes burned with passion. Xiao Qing, wait for me here. Lu Ming said to Xian Yanqing. Be careful, Xian Yanqing warned. Don't worry. Lu Ming smiled. He used his movement technique and dashed toward the corpse of the supreme martial artist. Whoosh! A drop of a supreme martial artist's blood shot toward Lu Ming like a blood-red meteor, carrying a terrifying aura. Bam! Lu Ming struck out with his palm, causing the drop of blood to scatter. However, Lu Ming also felt his palm go numb and a faint pain. Supreme Being is really powerful. This is just a drop of his blood, but it has such a terrifying power. It contains a lot of energy. It's a pity that I don't have enough heaven and earth concept right now. Otherwise, I would be able to quickly improve my cultivation after refining this blood. Lu Ming pondered silently. He did not bother about the fresh blood. In a flash, he dashed toward the corpse of the supreme martial artist. The 9 Dragons bloodline opened its mouth and roared. Its devouring power erupted. 9 drops of sparkling and translucent blood essence flew out from the corpse of the supreme martial artist and were devoured by the 9 dragons. Boom! After the 9 drops of blood were swallowed by the 9 dragons, they exploded. Boundless energy rampaged through the 9 dragons' bodies. The 9 dragons' bodies rapidly swelled up like a rubber ball, their volume increasing by several times. The energy within the supreme martial artist's blood essence was too powerful. Refine, refine! Lu Ming roared, frantically manipulating the 9 dragons' bloodline to refine the blood essence. He knew that he had been too impulsive. The amount of energy contained in the blood essence of a supreme being was simply too shocking. Even with his current cultivation base, he had to refine it drop by drop. That would be the safest way to proceed. Devouring all 9 drops in one go, that amount of energy was simply too shocking. Rumble! The 9 dragons' bloodline frantically operated the refining power to refine the blood essence within his body. Fortunately, he managed to hold on and did not explode. Gradually, the supreme martial artist's blood essence was refined and used to improve the 9 dragons' bloodline. Die! At this moment, a blood-red light flashed and charged toward Lu Ming. It was a white-haired elder from Cold Blood Hall. He was Sanguinarum's protector. After Sanguinarum's death, he had been eyeing Lu Ming for a long time. Taking advantage of this opportunity, he attacked Lu Ming. You're courting death. Lu Ming's eyes turned cold. The third bloodline emerged, and a murderous intent gushed out like a tide. Bam! Lu Ming's palm shattered the elder's blood-red light. His palm force surged toward the elder like a storm. Back then, outside Sacred City, Lu Ming was already at the peak of LV8 Spirit God Realm. Now that a few months had passed, Lu Ming's cultivation had risen to the peak of LV4 Spirit God Realm. His battle strength was stronger than before, so it was easier for him to deal with a peak LV8 Spirit God Realm expert. The elder was shocked. He did not expect his surprise attack to be easily defeated by Lu Ming. He unleashed his true yuan and punched. Bam! Lu Ming's palm struck his fist, causing him to tremble all over. He retreated at high speed. Die die! Lu Ming's eyes turned blood-red. Endless murderous intent shrouded the elder, causing his body to shiver and his battle strength to weaken. Boom! He activated the hell-suppressing heaven skill and struck out 2 palms in succession. The white-haired elder tried his best to block the 2 palms, but his arms exploded, and he spat out mouthfuls of blood. Whoosh! The third bloodline turned into a blood-red sword. Under Lu Ming's control, it turned into a beam of blood-red light and pierced through the elder's forehead, killing him. Whoosh whoosh whoosh! Lu Ming's figure flashed and returned to Xian Yinqing's side. Because Xian Yinqing had a supreme being by his side, he could ensure their safety. After arriving, Lu Ming sat cross-legged and focused on refining the essence blood. This refining process took more than 10 minutes. Only then did the essence blood in the 9 dragons' bodies calm down and return to Lu Ming's control. At this time, Lu Ming opened his eyes and stood up. He still had not completely refined the Supreme Being essence blood, but there was no need to worry. He could slowly refine it. At this time, the situation on the battlefield was clear. Countless experts of Cold Blood Hall had been killed, including a few Supreme Beings. They were completely at a disadvantage. Defeat was inevitable. RIP. At this moment, the space in the sky was constantly cracking. Lu Ming looked up and could barely see 3 figures fighting. One of them was Mo Yi, who had a towering demonic qi. The other was a woman with a graceful figure. She was shrouded in a halo, and her face could not be seen clearly. She must be the Emperor of Floating Mountain, Martial Emperor Wuxia. The last person was shrouded in blood-red light. Needless to say, he was the Blood Emperor of Cold Blood Hall. But at this time, the Blood Emperor of Cold Blood Hall was in a terrible state. His aura was weak, and one of his arms was missing. He had been severely injured by Mo Yi and Martial Emperor Wuxia. Blood Emperor, today you will die, said Wuxia coldly. Her voice was filled with killing intent. It was Empress Wuxia. You want to kill me? Dream on. The Blood Emperor's cold voice rang out. The blood-red light suddenly burst out and forced Martial Emperor Wuxia and Mo Yi to retreat. He turned into a beam of blood-red light and fled madly into the distance. The Blood Emperor of Cold Blood Hall had fled. Don't even think about it, Mo Yi shouted coldly, and chased after the Blood Emperor with Martial Emperor Wuxia. Seeing that the Blood Emperor of Cold Blood Hall had fled, the morale of the Cold Blood Hall members was greatly reduced. I surrender, I surrender. I surrender too. The giant eagles of Sky Eagle Castle were the first to surrender. They did not have a sense of belonging to Cold Blood Hall. Seeing that the situation was not good, they naturally surrendered one by one. With the surrender of the giant eagles, Cold Blood Hall was even more at a disadvantage. Those who surrender and are willing to engrave the formation in your consciousness, will be spared. Otherwise, you will be killed without mercy. Chapter 1177. I'm willing to surrender too. Me too. In the end, even the disciples and experts of Cold Blood Hall began to surrender. Some of the diehards killed those who did not surrender. Before long the battle stopped. Almost all the experts of Cold Blood Hall had surrendered. A few supreme martial artists broke through the siege and escaped. The rest of the supreme martial artists had surrendered. Even an emperor had been defeated and fled. If they continued to stubbornly resist, they would be courting death. The battle had ended. Later, Lu Ming ordered the experts to work with Floating Mountain to engrave a formation in the consciousness seas of those who surrendered. Brother Lu, we meet again. Jing Kongling gracefully walked over. She was surrounded by mist and looked ethereal like an immortal. Miss Kongling. Lu Ming cupped his fists in greeting. Jing Kongling's gaze landed on Xian Yanqing, and a hint of surprise flashed across his eyes. I believe this must be Miss Xian Yanqing. She is truly a peerless beauty, that Brother Lu is willing to personally come to the 9 underworlds. Xian Yanqing rolled her eyes and took Lu Ming's arm. You're too kind. Then a voice came into Lu Ming's ears. You know quite a lot of beauties when I'm not around. I was wondering why you attacked Coldblood Hall instead of Floating Mountain. It turns out that there's a beauty waiting for you to save her. Lu Ming smiled bitterly. Was this girl jealous? Lu Ming's mind raced as he tried to find an excuse. Hiss. At this moment, the space cracked and Mo Yi and Martial Emperor Yuexin walked out. Mo Yi, how's the Blood Emperor of Coldblood Hall? Lu Ming asked hurriedly. His body was shattered and the spirit deity was severely injured. Unfortunately, he escaped with the injured spirit deity. Mo Yi explained with some regret. Lu Ming sighed inwardly. The Blood Emperor was indeed powerful and difficult to kill. Even with 2 emperors at the same level, he still managed to escape. However, even though he has escaped, he won't be able to cause any trouble in a short period of time. The spirit god was seriously injured and fled with all his might. He doesn't have much strength left. Mo Yi explained. Brother Mo Yi, thank you for your help this time, said Empress Yuexin at that moment, bowing to Mo Yi. Yuexin Martial Monarch was very beautiful. She looked like she was only in her 30s. She didn't look like an Emperor realm expert who had been famous in the Central Continent for nearly 10,000 years. Haha, there's no need to thank me. I'm just following orders. If you want to thank someone, you should thank Commander Lu Ming. Mo Yi smiled and looked at Lu Ming. Yuexin Martial Monarch looked at Lu Ming with a trace of surprise in her eyes. Mo Yi actually obeyed Lu Ming's orders? A ruler actually obeyed the orders of a young junior. This was truly rare in the world. Greetings, Senior Moonheart. Lu Ming cupped his fists towards Yuexin Martial Monarch. Commander Lu, you're too courteous. How about we go into the mountains for a chat? Said Yuexin Martial Monarch. Lu Ming and the others nodded and followed Yuexin Martial Monarch, Jing Kongling, and the others into Floating Mountain. They sat down in a hall. Thank you for your help, Commander Lu. Otherwise, Floating Mountain would be in danger. Yuexin Martial Monarch thanked Lu Ming again. You're too courteous. Miss Kongling and Chu Kuang are old friends of Floating Mountain. It's my duty to help them. Lu Ming thought for a while and said, the Central Continent is in chaos now. Many forces are fighting. If they're divided, they'll be weak. If they're united, they'll be strong. What do you think of Lu Ming's proposal to ally with Floating Mountain? Ally. Yuexin Martial Monarch, Jing Kongling, and the other Supreme Masters of Floating Mountain were all stunned and pondered. Yuexin Martial Monarch thought for a while and said, I wonder if Senior Xie is here? Senior Xie is in Coldblood Hall's lair. I'm afraid Coldblood Hall has fallen into his hands, said Lu Ming. 2 allies. Commander Lu, can you represent Senior Xie? Said Yuexin Martial Monarch. Obviously, Lu Ming was not important enough in Yuexin Martial Monarch's eyes. Don't worry. Commander Lu can make decisions on behalf of Demon Ancestor, said Mo Yi. This shocked Yuexin Martial Monarch, Jing Kongling and the others. They did not expect Lu Ming to have such great power in Xiaowan's forces. Yuexin's eyes flickered slightly. All the rumors about Lu Ming that she had heard flashed through her mind. This guy has a bright future. In the end, Yuexin's eyes lit up and said, Great. In that case, Floating Mountain will ally with Commander Lu. She was talking about Commander Lu, not Emperor Luan. Great. Lu Ming thanks Senior Yu. Lu Ming was overjoyed. To have one more ally was a great advantage for Lu Ming. Immediately, the 2 sides carried out a simple ceremony to formally form an alliance. After the alliance, Lu Ming said goodbye to Yuexin and the others, because Xiaowan had sent news that the headquarters of Coldblood Hall was completely under his control. Lu Ming led the army and went straight to Coldblood Hall. Coldblood Hall had been completely occupied. Those who had stayed behind had either surrendered or been killed. Experts from Myriad Demon Abyss were everywhere in Coldblood Hall. Many of them were inscribing formations or repairing formations all over Coldblood Hall. It did not take long for Lu Ming and the others to arrive at Cold Blood Hall. At Cold Blood Hall, more than a dozen experts gathered at the cross-domain transmission formation. Xiao Wan, Lu Ming, Mo Yi and the others were among them. Lu Ming, I didn't expect you to be the Zongzi of Eastern Wilderness Talisman Puppet Sect. But you don't have any spirit fire. How strange. Xiao Wan laughed. Lu Ming smiled faintly, but did not explain further. Senior, please help me adjust the coordinates of Talisman Puppet Sect. Lu Ming said. Immediately, a few supreme martial artists who were stronger in the way of inscription stepped forward and adjusted the coordinates of Talisman Puppet Sect on the huge cross-domain transmission altar. On the other hand, Lu Ming closed his eyes slightly. At this moment in Talisman Puppet Sect, a cave that had been closed for a long time suddenly opened. Lu Ming's second body stepped out of it. Lu Ming's second body moved and went to Bai Shijin's mansion. Not long after, Lu Ming's second body, Bai Shijin, Du Songjue and two other supreme martial artists, appeared at the cross-domain transmission formation of Talisman Puppet Sect. The chaotic Sky Emperor Xiao Wan has reappeared? You even formed an alliance to destroy the Overlord power, Cold Blood Hall? Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, and the others muttered to themselves. Ever since Lu Ming's second body briefly explained the situation in Central Continent, they still could not believe it, and had not recovered from the shock. Senior, now everything is true. Let's adjust the coordinates of Cold Blood Hall, and accept their transmission request. Lu Ming's second body said. Good haha, in this way Di can't trap us. Bai Shijin laughed. The others also smiled. If they could communicate with the overlord power of Central Continent, they would no longer have to be afraid of Di Yi's siege. Even if the yin and yang formation was broken, they would have a way out. Immediately, they began to adjust the coordinates. The transmission formation required the consent of both parties. It could not be transmitted just because one party wanted to. Chapter 1178. Not long after, the coordinates of the two sides were matched. The altar of the interterritory teleportation formation emitted a dazzling light, and a black vortex appeared above it. Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, and the rest stared at the vortex. Not long after, two figures emerged from the vortex. Lu Ming, Bai Shijin and the rest were overjoyed. One of the two figures was Lu Ming, and the other was Xian Yanqing. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing stepped out of the vortex and appeared in front of Bai Shijin and the rest. Is this your second body? Xian Yanqing's big eyes were filled with curiosity as she looked at Lu Ming's second body. What? Do you want to give me a kiss? The second body suddenly smiled and said. Lu Ming's consciousness entered the second body and spoke. Xian Yanqing's little face instantly flushed red, and she glared at Lu Ming. The second body pointed at Lu Ming and took a step forward. It rapidly shrank and entered the heart of Lu Ming's brows, sitting cross-legged in Lu Ming's sea of consciousness. At this moment, Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, and the rest were looking at Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing with astonishment. Lu Ming, your cultivation? What realm are you at? Bai Shijin asked. Actually, he had already seen through Lu Ming's cultivation, but he found it hard to believe. Peak of the 4th level of the Spirit God realm. Senior, what's wrong? Lu Ming said. CSI Bai Shijin, and the rest sucked in a breath of cold air. It had only been around 2 years. When Lu Ming set out from the Eastern Desolation to the Central Continent, his cultivation was only at the 8th level of the Spirit Embryo realm. But in 2 years, not only had Lu Ming surpassed the Spirit God realm, he had even reached the peak of the 4th level of the Spirit God realm. This was truly too shocking. After reaching the Spirit God realm, they knew very well how difficult it was to advance a level. But to Lu Ming, it didn't seem difficult at all. Also, they looked at Xian Yanqing. They naturally saw through Xian Yanqing's cultivation. He was at the peak of the 3rd level of the Spirit God realm. Strong, too strong. The point was that Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing were still so young. It was truly shocking that they had reached this level at such an age. They were at such an age. In comparison, the geniuses of the Talisman Puppet Sect were a far cry from Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. Perhaps Lu Ming can really lead the Talisman Puppet Sect to rise, they thought. At this moment, the teleportation grand formation trembled slightly, and two more figures appeared. It was Xiao Wan and Mo Yi. Subconsciously, Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, and the others swept their spirit senses towards Xiao Wan and Mo Yi. With a sweep, their expressions changed drastically as they exclaimed, "Emperor! It's an emperor!" Two emperors. Bai Shijin and the others exclaimed with strong vigilance. Their eyes were filled with shock. Seniors, this is Xiao Wan Senior Xie, and this is Demon Emperor Mo Yi. Lu Ming hurriedly introduced. Emperor Wan Xiao Wan. The hearts of Bai Shijin and the others trembled. The name of Emperor Luan was not only known by the central continent, but also the experts of the Eastern Desolation, Southern Underworld, and other territories. Bai Shijin and the others naturally knew. After that, Bai Shijin and the others hurriedly bowed to Xiao Wan and Mo Yi. Yes. Xiao Wan nodded casually and spread out his spirit sense. I didn't expect that the Talisman Puppet sect wouldn't be here. Back then, it was a famous sect in the Eastern Desolation. Xiao Wan spoke slowly, causing Bai Shijin and the others to feel slightly embarrassed. Senior Xie, I'll show you around. Lu Ming smiled. After 2 years, he returned to the Talisman Puppet sect. Lu Ming was in a good mood. This was the place that truly belonged to Lu Ming. It was the place that could be controlled by him. Xiao Wan's force was just an alliance. Xiao Wan nodded. Everyone stepped into the air and flew into the distance. On the way, Xiao Wan swept his gaze and nodded secretly. It seems that I've still underestimated Lu Ming. Other than not having an emperor, the strength he has isn't weak. What a powerful junior. He's trying to break through to the emperor realm. Once he breaks through, it will be no small matter. Xiao Wan's gaze looked towards the north, his eyes shining brightly. Seeing this scene, Lu Ming knew that Xiao Wan had sensed Supreme Nine Sons. In the past 2 years, Supreme Nine Sons had been in seclusion, trying to break through to the emperor realm. Father, mother. Immediately after, Lu Ming's gaze turned to the front. In front of him, Yin Kuangtu condensed his true origin into a cloud and flew over with Lu Yuntian, Li Ping, Hua Qi, Bai Qi Shui, and the others. Obviously, they had received news that Lu Ming had returned. Originally, only a few people knew that Lu Ming had gone to the central continent and left his second body to guard the Talisman Puppet sect. Other than Bai Shijing, Yin Kuangtu, and a few other supremes, only Lu Ming's parents knew. However, ever since Lu Ming's true identity was exposed during the million-year sacrifice battle in the Holy City, the Wang family's patriarch, the Jiang family's patriarch, Di Shun, and the others returned to the Eastern Wilderness. News of Lu Ming's appearance in the Eastern Wilderness spread. The Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace publicly revealed that Lu Ming's second body was fake outside the Yin and Yang mountain. Only then did the others in the Talisman Puppet sect know that Lu Ming had left the Yin and Yang mountain for the central continent. Of course, no one would think of such a miraculous secret art like the twin life restriction. They all thought that Lu Ming's second body in the Talisman Puppet sect was someone else in disguise. Now that Lu Ming had returned, they naturally wanted to see Lu Ming after receiving the news. Lu Ming pulled Xian Yinqing and flew forward, greeting Lu Yuntian and Li Ping. Father, mother. Ming. It's good that you're back. Although Lu Yuntian and Li Ping knew that Lu Ming was safe and sound through Lu Ming's second body, they were still overjoyed to see the real Lu Ming. Then their gazes fell on Xian Yinqing. After being stunned for a moment, a smile appeared on their faces. Li Ping happily held Xian Yinqing's little hand and said, Miss Yinqing, long time no see. Ming finally brought you back. Good. Uncle Auntie. Xian Yinqing's little face blushed slightly as she saluted Lu Yuntian and Li Ping. The two elders nodded repeatedly, overjoyed. Haha, so this is my younger sister-in-law. Truly a national beauty, rarely seen in this world. Yen Kuangta laughed loudly, causing Xian Yinqing's little face to turn even redder. Big brother Yen. Lu Ming greeted Yen Kuangtu, Hua Qi, and the others. Among the crowd, Bai Qi Shui looked at Xian Yinqing with a hint of loneliness in her eyes. Is this the woman Lu Ming likes? That year, in a fit of anger, she caused a great war in Nine Dragons City. She's truly devastatingly beautiful. Only such a woman is worthy of Lu Ming. Bai Qixue sighed in her heart, forcing a smile on her face. She stepped forward and greeted Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. Then, Lu Ming introduced Xiao Wan and Mo Yi to Yin Kuangtu and the others. However, Lu Ming only introduced the names, and did not introduce Xiao Wan's cultivation. Only Yin Kuangtu was shocked when he sensed Xiao Wan and Mo Yi's cultivation. Father, mother, go back to your residence first. I have something to do with the seniors. I'll find you later. Lu Ming said. Alright, it's fine. Go ahead. Lu Yintian said. Then they went back. Yin Kuangtu stayed behind. Senior Xie. The Talisman Puppet Sect is now surrounded by the Emperor God Divine Palace. The Palace Master of the Emperor God Divine Palace is an emperor. Senior, are you confident in dealing with him? Chapter 1179. Since Xiao Wan and Mo Yi were here, it would be best if they could use Xiao Wan to get rid of Martial King De. Xiao Wan did not say anything. He stood in the air and looked to the east, as if he was sensing something. In the east of the Talisman Puppet Sect, Martial King De was cultivating in seclusion. At this moment he seemed to have sensed something. His eyes suddenly opened and 2 rays of bright light shot out. A shocking aura rose from Martial King De's body. Who is spying on me? Martial King De said slowly. Inside the Talisman Puppet Sect. Boom! Xiao Wan's expression changed abruptly. A powerful aura involuntarily rose from his body. However, the aura was quickly withdrawn. What a powerful cultivation! I never thought that there would be such a person in the Eastern Barren Territory. Xiao Wan frowned and said seriously. Lu Ming was shocked. Could Martial King De be so powerful? Even Xiao Wan was serious. Lu Ming, the Martial Emperor De that you mentioned is very powerful. If I was at my peak, I would be able to suppress him. However, I am not his match now. Don't provoke him for the time being. Give me some time, and I will not be afraid of him. Xiao Wan said slowly. Lu Ming, Bai Shijin, Du Songjue and the others' faces changed. Was Martial King De really that powerful? Even Xiao Wan thought highly of him, and said that he was not his match. Alright, Lu Ming nodded. He knew that Xiao Wan had been suppressed for 30,000 years. Although he had recovered a little, he was still far from his peak. It would be too difficult for him to recover to his peak. Lu Ming, let's go back to Cold Blood Hall and rest for a few days before heading to Northern Plains. If you want to go to Northern Plains, you can come here within 3 days. Xiao Wan said to Lu Ming. After that, he and Mo Yi stepped into the air and returned to Cold Blood Hall through the transdomain teleportation formation. After that, Lu Ming said goodbye to Bai Shijin and the others. He held Xian Yanqing's hand and went to Lu Yuntian and Li Ping's residence. In the next few days, Lu Ming stayed at the Lu family's residence. When he had time, he would visit Hua Qi, the Mystic Essence Sword sect, and the others. 2 years ago, Lu Ming had left behind a large amount of resources. After 2 years, everyone had made great progress. Both Hua Qi and Pang Shi had reached the Martial Emperor realm. His father Lu Yuntian had also become a martial king. Among them his 2 disciples, Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiaro, had made the fastest progress. They had already become high-level martial kings. However, this kind of progress was still far from Lu Ming's expectations. This time, Lu Ming left more resources for the Lu family, Hua Qi, and the others. They had all kinds of power Upanishad crystals, pellets, herbs, and weapons. 3 days later, in the Talisman Puppet Sect's assembly hall, Lu Ming, Yin Kuangtu, and the various elders and eminent elders of the Talisman Puppet Sect were gathered. Lu Ming sat on the main seat at the top of the hall. This was strongly requested by Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, and the others. Now Lu Ming's cultivation had already stepped into the spiritual god realm, and he had reached the peak of the 4th level spirit god realm. He was qualified to take charge of the Talisman Puppet Sect. Therefore, Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, and the others strongly requested that Lu Ming take the main seat. In the future, the Talisman Puppet Sect would be officially handed over to Lu Ming. Lu Ming was originally a Zongzi. Zongzi meant that when his cultivation improved, and he was able to take charge, he could succeed the position of sect master. With Lu Ming's current cultivation, although it was still a little lacking, the Talisman Puppet sect did not have an Emperor realm expert. Therefore, the conditions were not too high. Lu Ming did not decline and accepted it calmly. Now he indeed needed his own strength. Seniors, I've already explained the situation in the central continent. If you have any suggestions or ideas, please feel free to speak. Lu Ming said. Zongzi, us old fellows have been sealed off from the eastern wilderness for many years. We know nothing about the situation in the central continent. You know much better than us. We'll listen to you and do whatever you say. Bai Shijin said. That's what I think too. Du Songjue said. Haha Lu Ming, I'll do whatever you say. I'll drink with you. Yin Kuangta gulped down a few mouthfuls of wine and laughed. Alright, then I'll tell you what I think. Now that the central continent is in chaos, and the various forces are at war and attacking each other, the strong are getting stronger, and the weak are getting weaker and weaker. We can't sit still and wait for death. We have to take the initiative to attack, and increase our strength. I've formed an alliance with the Chaotic Sky Divine Emperor and the Floating Mountain sect. The Chaotic Sky Divine Emperor wants to conquer the northern plains. We can't miss this opportunity. I plan to gather a group of experts to fight with me. Firstly, we can obtain resources. Secondly, we can train ourselves. In the future, when we conquer the northern plains, we'll be able to communicate with the northern plains. That way, we'll be able to move freely. What do you think? Lu Ming explained his idea. Then we'll do as Zongzi says. Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, and the others nodded. Lu Ming, I'll fight with you. After staying in the Talisman Puppet sect for so many years, there's no one to spar with. It's so boring. Yin Kuangtu said with a strong battle intent in his eyes. In the past, Yin Kuangtu was a war general of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. He was a battle maniac, and had been cooped up in the Talisman Puppet sect for the past few years. It was truly unbearable. Now that he heard that he could go to war, he naturally would not miss this opportunity. His heart was itching unbearably. I'll fight with Zongzi. I'll go too. Two founding elders of the Talisman Puppet sect said. One of them was the founding elder of the Puppet sect, Meng Chong. The other was the founding elder of the Talisman Puppet sect, Jiang Ke. Both of them had the cultivation of sovereign realm. Great. I'm relieved to have the three of you together. Lu Ming was overjoyed. Then, they discussed the specific details. In addition to Yin Kuangtu, Meng Chong, and Jiang Ke, the other experts of the other levels were also selected to follow Lu Ming to fight. Some of the younger generation were also selected to follow Lu Ming as a form of training. It was difficult to make progress in the path of cultivation by blindly cultivating. One had to take risks and fight to make a breakthrough. After the plan was made, they began to spread the news. Then, Lu Ming led hundreds of people into the cross-domain teleportation formation and headed to Cold Blood Hall. The teleportation formation of Cold Blood Hall flickered, and Lu Ming's figure appeared. Not long after Lu Ming appeared, a voice messaging jade charm came. Xiao Wan invited Lu Ming to the conference hall to discuss matters. Lu Ming led Yin Kuangtu, Meng Chong, and Jiang Ke to the conference hall, and found that Xiao Wan, Mo Yi, and some sovereigns of the Myriad Demons Abyss were all there. When the sovereigns of the Myriad Demons Abyss saw Lu Ming, they used their spiritual senses to scan Yin Kuangtu and the others. Their eyes flickered slightly. They did not expect that Lu Ming also had sovereigns following him. They knew that they had underestimated Lu Ming. They used to think that Lu Ming was alone, but now they realized that they were wrong. Lu Ming also had his own forces. Lu Ming sit. Xiao Wan pointed to the seat beside him. Chapter 1180. I'll tell you my next plan. The Northern Plains Demon God Valley is my backup plan. However, 30,000 years have passed, and I don't know the exact situation. I'll go to the Demon God Valley alone, and take control of it. Lu Ming will be in charge here. Wait for my news. After I take control of Demon God Valley, I'll open the cross-domain teleportation formation, and connect it with Cold Blood Hall. They'll take the teleportation formation to Northern Plains. Xiao Wan told him his plan. Obviously, this was the best plan at the moment. Naturally, no one objected. Well, in that case, I'll leave now. Lu Ming, I'll leave this place to you. With that, Xiao Wan got up and took a step forward. When he stepped out, the space cracked and Xiao Wan disappeared into it. After Xiao Wan left, Lu Ming made arrangements for the people of Talisman Puppet Sect. Brother Yin, take this Emperor Spirit Pagoda. In front of a courtyard, Lu Ming stopped Yin Kuangtu and handed him a small fiery red pagoda. It was the Emperor Spirit Pagoda that he had obtained from the Saint Mansion secret realm. He had lent it to Xiao Wan and returned it to Lu Ming after Xiao Wan recovered his Emperor cultivation. The Emperor Spirit Pagoda was a fire tribute treasure with a fire domain. Yin Kuangtu's bloodline was the three-legged golden crow, and his flame power was unparalleled. It was most suitable for Yin Kuangtu, and would be even more powerful. This is an Emperor Spirit Pagoda. Yin Kuangtu scanned it with his spiritual consciousness and his face suddenly changed. Lu Ming, this is too precious. I can't accept it. Brother Yin, do you still need to be polite with me? Besides, the war is imminent. This Emperor Spirit Pagoda can only exert its full power in your hands. It's useless in my hands. Lu Ming pushed, and the Emperor Spirit Pagoda flew towards Yin Kuangtu. Seeing Lu Ming's firm attitude, Yin Kuangtu did not refuse, and kept the Emperor Spirit Pagoda. To be honest, the Emperor's spiritual tower was very useful to him. It had a fire domain, which was helpful to his cultivation. It would also be useful for him to break through to the ruler level. Lu Ming, thank you. After Yin Kuangtu put it away, he solemnly clasped his fists towards Lu Ming with a rare solemn and serious expression. Haha, big brother Yin. I'm not used to seeing you like this. Lu Ming laughed and strode away. After returning to his residence, Lu Ming's glabella shone, and the figure of his second body appeared. A disc array appeared in Lu Ming's hand and flew to the second body. The second body caught it, and continued to inscribe array formations with both hands. The second body's Tao of inscription was much stronger than it was 2 years ago. In an instant, numerous inscriptions flew into the disc. This disc array was the disc array given to him by the heavenly profound saint in the Saint Mansion's secret realm. As long as the second body controlled the disc array, he could enter the Saint Mansion's secret realm and obtain the heavenly profound saint's inheritance. Soon, the disc array shone brightly and formed a huge vortex. The second body nodded slightly to Lu Ming, then stepped into it and disappeared. After the second body disappeared, the vortex also disappeared. Everything was ready, and Lu Ming waited patiently. To his surprise, not long after, the floating mountain sect sent 2 supreme beings to assist Lu Ming in the conquest of the northern plains. Lu Ming was naturally overjoyed. With 2 more supreme beings, their strength would naturally be stronger. Time passed quickly. 2 days had passed in the blink of an eye. At this time, Lu Ming received news from Xiao Wan that it was a success. Xiao Wan had successfully taken control of the Demon God Valley. Everyone in the Demon God Valley, including the ruler, had surrendered to Xiao Wan. Obviously, like the myriad demon abyss, Xiao Wan had a backup plan. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to subdue an overlord so easily. Next, the cross-domain teleportation arrays of the 2 places were connected. Let's go! Lu Ming waved his hand, and the army set out. As for the Cold Blood Hall, only a few people were left behind to guard it. More than 100,000 soldiers were sent to the Demon God Valley through the teleportation array. Lu Ming led Yin Kuangtu and the rest to set out in the last batch. The Demon God Valley was one of the 5 overlord forces in the northern plains. It was powerful and had an emperor overseeing it. It was located in a vast mountain range. Inside, there were countless valleys of various sizes. Demonic qi filled the air, which was suitable for demonic Tao cultivators to cultivate. On the second day after Lu Ming and the rest arrived at the Demon God Valley, the army gathered in a huge valley. Xiao Wan and Lu Ming stood at the front. Beside them were 2 other people. One was Mo Yi, and the other was a burly old man called Chu Luo. He was the Demon God Valley's emperor. In the valley, the myriad devil abyss, the Demon God Valley, and the Talisman Puppet Sect experts that Lu Ming had brought with him were gathered. There are a total of 5 overlord forces in the northern plains. Each of them is very powerful. If we want to take down the other 4 overlord forces, we must attack as quickly as possible. Now they are not aware of the Demon God Valley. If we wait until they are fully prepared, our battle will be much more difficult. I will discuss with Commander Lu. He and I will each lead an army to attack 2 forces. I will lead the army to take care of Golden Wave Cliff and Light Dragon Tower. Commander Lu, Moyi, Chu Luo, you will lead an army to take care of the Mountain Piercing Sect and 100 Beast Tribe. Take them down as quickly as possible. That way, the northern plains will be under our control. Xiao Wan announced. Yes, the army obeyed. Although the people from the Demonic God Valley, Chu Luo, and the rest were puzzled as to why Xiao Wan would form an alliance with Lu Ming, they did not probe further. They only needed to follow Xiao Wan's orders. Rumble. Huge warships appeared in the sky. Lu Ming and Xiao Wan each took a warship and flew in 2 different directions. Lu Ming's army's first target was the Mountain Piercing Sect. Enemy attack. When they were close to the Mountain Piercing Sect, a loud roar came from within. Countless rays of light shone from within the Mountain Piercing Sect. The sect protection array rose. Auras burst out and figures flickered as they appeared in front of the Mountain Piercing Sect. Rumble. Lu Ming's warship stopped a few thousand miles away from the Mountain Piercing Sect. Lu Ming stepped out of the warship first. Behind him was a large army that followed Lu Ming. They stepped out of the warship and appeared in front of the Mountain Piercing Sect. Who is it? An angry roar came from within the Mountain Piercing Sect. A terrifying aura shot up into the sky and suppressed everything within a few thousand miles. A tall figure that was covered in yellow light appeared at the front of the Mountain Piercing Sect. An emperor. Obviously this was the emperor of the Mountain Piercing Sect. Peng. Peng. Chu Luo and Moyi stepped out and came to the front. They released their emperor's aura and pressed forward. Emperors, 2 emperors. Countless people in the Mountain Piercing Sect exclaimed in shock. Chapter 1181. Chu Luo, it's you? Why did you bring people to my Mount Piercing Sect? The emperor of the Mount Piercing Sect looked at Chu Luo and shouted. Emperor of Wanshan, I advise you to lead the entire Mount Piercing Sect and surrender. Otherwise today the Mount Piercing Sect will be destroyed. Chu Luo said coldly. Haha, surrender? Don't even think about it. Chu Luo, I knew that you have wild ambitions. It's useless even if you find helpers. Today we'll fight to the death. The Emperor of Wanshan laughed mockingly. If you don't surrender, then let's fight. As soon as Chu Luo's voice fell, the aura on his body burst out violently and became even more terrifying. Boom. On the side, Moyi also erupted. The pressure of the Emperor was vast and mighty. Demonic chi formed a pillar of demonic chi that soared into the sky. Boom. Boom. Moyi and Chu Luo stepped forward at the same time. Heaven and earth trembled under their feet. 2 terrifying demonic lights bombarded the Mount Piercing Sect. 2 earth-shattering explosions were heard. The entire Mount Piercing Sect shook violently, as if there was a magnitude 10 earthquake. The Mount Piercing Sect's protective formation trembled violently. Under the bombardment of the 2 demon emperors, it could not resist and collapsed with a loud bang. In the northern plains, there were no cultivators who were proficient in the path of inscriptions. Therefore, the protective formation was not very strong. Kill. As soon as the protective formation was broken, the Emperor of Wanshan roared and rushed into the sky. Countless mountains appeared around his body. There seemed to be hundreds of them. This was the Emperor of Wanshan's domain, called the Wanshan Domain. Wanshan, since you're courting death, I'll send you on your way. Chu Luo shouted coldly. Endless black demonic light spread out around his body. Demonic domain. Similarly, Moyi also released his demonic domain and attacked the Emperor of Wanshan together with Chu Luo. The 3 emperors immediately engaged in a fierce battle in the sky. In the sky, there was a terrifying fluctuation. This Chu Luo is so strong. He's slightly stronger than Moyi. Lu Ming raised his eyebrows. Chu Luo's combat strength was slightly stronger than Moyi's. Joining forces with Moyi, it didn't take many moves to gain the upper hand. Kill. At this moment, Lu Ming waved his hand and the army set off, charging toward the Chuanshan sect. Kill. The disciples of the mountain-piercing sect also charged out. The two sides fought fiercely. Whoosh! Beside Lu Ming, a fiery red light shot out rapidly. It was Yin Kuangtu. He had his eyes on one of the Supremes. It was a 3-meter-tall man with bulging muscles all over his body. His whole body was emitting an earthy yellow light. He was also staring at Yin Kuangtu. Kill! The other party shouted as a broad axe appeared in his hand and chopped towards Yin Kuangtu. Yin Kuangtu was covered in flames as he punched out. Boom! The flaming fist accurately landed on the axe. The axe shook violently, and the opponent's tall and burly figure also shook violently. Then he was forced to retreat. Kill! Yin Kuangtu's combat strength was invincible. Terrifying flames spread out towards Lu Ming, and his fists kept bombarding. The other party tried his best to fend off Zhang Xian's attacks, but with every move he made, he would be forced back several steps. After a few moves, the other party's body jolted violently, and a mouthful of blood spurted from his mouth. There was a look of horror in his eyes. They were both Supremes, but how could Yin Kuangtu's combat strength be so strong? Explode! He shouted and performed bloodline fusion, but what awaited him was Yin Kuangtu's storm-like attacks. Yin Kuangtu transformed into a 3-legged golden crow. With a flap of his wings, he instantly appeared in front of the other party. He grabbed with his claws and directly broke the other party's bloodline fusion. Then, his wings were like a flaming heavenly blade, cutting the other party's body in half. Even the spirit deity couldn't escape. A supreme being was killed just like that, shocking everyone in the surroundings. Kill! Then, Yin Kuangtu fixed his eyes on another supreme being and attacked him. Join forces, let's join forces! The Supremes shouted and joined forces with the other Supremes to fight against Yin Kuangtu, but they were still at a disadvantage. A few years ago, in the Battle of Nine Dragons City, Yin Kuangtu was able to fight against 3 Supremes alone. Now a few years had passed. Although Yin Kuangtu hadn't broken through to the Emperor realm, he had taken another step forward. His combat strength was stronger than back then, and he could easily suppress 2 Supremes. In the end, another Supremes joined the battlefield and barely stopped Yin Kuangtu. What a powerful Supremes! The Supremes who followed the myriad demons Abyss and demonic God Valley were secretly shocked when they saw this scene. They were shocked by Yin Kuangtu's strength and knew that the force behind Lu Ming should not be underestimated. With Yin Kuangtu fighting against several Supremes alone, the others had a much easier time. Originally, Lu Ming's side had more Supremes than the Mountain Crossing sect. In this way it was completely one-sided. Earth Essence. This Mountain Crossing sect has a lot of people who practice Earth Essence and other essences. Lu Ming's eyes began to shine. Unlike Cold Blood Hall, the Mountain Crossing sect's essence was very simple. Although the Mountain Crossing sect's essence was mainly Mountain Essence and Earth Essence, there were also many who practiced other essences. Concept of fire, concept of water, concept of thunder, concept of wind. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. His figure dashed out like a flickering light and a passing shadow. He appeared beside the powerful figures of the Pangshan sect who had died in the battle. His devouring power erupted, devouring the intense runes and blood essence of the other party. Refine for me. Lu Ming controlled the 9 dragons' bloodline and frantically refined it. At the same time, his figure flickered and rushed to other places. Every time he devoured, he would sense the other party's essence. Only when he felt that the other party's essence was compatible with his did he begin to devour. As he devoured and refined the 9 dragons' bloodline, Lu Ming's 5 essences began to slowly improve. The corpse of a Supreme. Finally, Lu Ming came to the corpse of a Supreme. It was the Supreme who had been killed by Yin Kuangtu. Lu Ming took out a jade bottle and guided it with his genuine vitality. 9 drops of blood essence, which were like bright red gems, were drawn out and stored in the jade bottle. I need to get more Supreme blood essence. Lu Ming's eyes darted around. It was too difficult for him to upgrade his bloodline now. Previously, he had refined the blood essence of a Supreme being, but his 9 dragons bloodline had not been upgraded. It was still at level 8 of the divine level. However, Lu Ming had a feeling that after refining the blood essence of a Supreme being, his bloodline was improving, and was approaching level 9 of the divine level. This meant that the supreme blood essence was still very useful. It was just that he needed more of it. As long as there was enough supreme blood essence, his bloodline would improve sooner or later. Boom! Suddenly, the mountain rocks under Lu Ming's feet shook, and a stone spear condensed. The sharp spear pierced out from under Lu Ming's feet, and pierced towards Lu Ming's throat. Sneak attack! Lu Ming's eyes turned cold. He did not dodge. His neck trembled slightly, and 5 colored essences surrounded him. He executed the hell-suppressing heaven skill, and a powerful force erupted. Bang! The stone spear directly collapsed. Lu Ming had already cultivated the hell-suppressing heaven skill, to the point that every part of his body could explode with attacks. Even his throat could explode with powerful attacks. Chapter 1182. Not far away, a powerhouse from the mountain-piercing sect was shocked. Kill! Lu Ming's killing intent exploded as he took a step forward and charged towards the powerhouse. This person was at the 7th level of the spirit god realm. However, he was defeated by Lu Ming in less than 2 moves. Lu Ming broke his defense and pierced his heart with 1 move. Killed in 1 blow. After killing this person, Lu Ming continued to look for targets to devour. The battle was extremely intense, and the powerhouses of the mountain-piercing sect fell like raindrops. Lu Ming devoured while putting away the storage rings. As time passed, Lu Ming devoured the concept of heaven and earth of dozens of spirit god realm powerhouses. Enough. Spirit god realm powerhouses have very strong self-awareness. I've absorbed too much. Even if I refine it, it will be very impure and affect my foundation. I need time to refine it. Lu Ming's figure flashed, and he retreated out of the battlefield and returned to the warship. Xian Yinqing was not on the warship, but fighting outside to temper himself. Lu Ming asked Meng Chong and Jiang Ke to protect Xian Yinqing secretly in case anything happened to Xian Yinqing. Lu Ming stood on the warship, refining the concept runes that he devoured while observing the battle. In the sky, the Emperor of Wanshan was completely suppressed by Chu Luo and Mo Yi. He was already injured, and his defeat was certain. It was the same for the battlefield below the Emperor realm. The mountain-piercing sect was powerless to reverse the situation. Wanshan surrender. Don't make a meaningless struggle. Chu Luo said coldly. Don't even think about it. Unless you kill me today, you won't have an easy time. The Emperor of Wanshan roared with cold killing intent. He began to attack, intending to escape. As long as he escaped, he would launch a crazy revenge in the future. The crazy revenge of an emperor was terrifying. As long as the emperor was not here, no one was his match. Then I'll kill you today. Chu Luo revealed strong killing intent, and so did Mo Yi. They used all their strength to kill the Emperor of Wanshan. Clang! At this moment below, a fiery red light bloomed, and the surrounding temperature rose sharply. Yen Kuangtu was fighting the 3 Supremes. At this moment, the Emperor's spirit pagoda appeared above Yen Kuangtu's head. It vibrated gently, and a circle of fire spread out. The 3 Supremes of the mountain-piercing sect were hit by the Emperor's spirit pagoda. Emperor's spirit weapon! One of the Supremes roared in horror. Kill! Yen Kuangtu took out the Emperor's spirit pagoda, and his battle prowess was raised to a terrifying level. He took a step forward, and the Emperor's spirit pagoda enlarged, suppressing one of the Supremes. No! The sovereign was locked down by the power of the Emperor's spirit pagoda. It was difficult for him to escape, and he could only passively resist. Bang! The Emperor of Myriad Mountains roared, and his hands bombarded the Emperor's spirit pagoda. The Emperor's spirit pagoda shook violently, and Yen Kuangtu's body was also pushed back. But in the end, he managed to block the Emperor of Myriad Mountains. Yen Kuangtu's cultivation was already very close to the martial royal realm. With the addition of the Emperor's spirit weapon, his combat strength could barely contend with an emperor. With this block, Chu Luo and Mo Yi had arrived. Myriad Mountains, your end is already decided. Chu Luo shouted and joined forces with Mo Yi. A terrifying attack burst out, and shrouded the Emperor of Myriad Mountains. Clang! Yen Kuangtu controlled the Emperor's spirit pagoda, and attacked the Emperor of Myriad Mountains again. The seriously injured Emperor of Myriad Mountains was besieged by the three experts and could no longer escape. Royal blood spilled in the sky. In the end, the Emperor of Myriad Mountains was killed by the three experts and fell in the sky above the Chuanshan sect. An emperor of a generation had fallen just like that. At the sight of this, Lu Ming's heart still trembled. So what if he was an emperor? So what if he dominated the Divine Wilderness continent? Didn't he still fall? This was the Divine Wilderness continent. Overseas, the larger continents, and even the center of the primordial realm. The primordial continent was more dangerous, and there were more experts. The cultivation of an emperor could also fall and not be able to protect himself. Being an emperor is not my end. I need to climb to a higher realm. Otherwise, I can't even protect myself, let alone my family. At this moment, Lu Ming's eyes were bright. His heart and vision were higher. In the past, his goal was to break through to the Emperor realm and kill De. But now, his goal was not limited to the Emperor realm. His goal was to become a saint above the Emperor realm, or rather a saint above the saint realm. Perhaps, only by reaching a cultivation level that could dominate the primordial realm, could he truly control his own fate and protect his family? Lu Ming sighed in his heart. The Emperor is dead. The ancestor has fallen. Chapter 1183. The 10,000 Mountains Sovereign is dead. Why aren't you surrendering? Chu Luo stood high in the sky looking down. His voice spread to every corner of the sect. The vast sovereign's aura covered the entire sect, making it hard for people to breathe. I surrender. I'm willing to surrender. I surrender too. With the sovereign killed, many disciples and experts of the mountain-piercing sect no longer had the courage to fight and surrendered. You traitors, have you forgotten the sovereign's kindness to you? There were also some who were more stubborn and would rather die than surrender. Naturally, they were killed on the spot. This was war, it was life or death. No one would be soft-hearted. Seeing this, more people of the mountain-piercing sect surrendered. Next, the battlefield was cleaned up, and the aftermath was arranged. Lu Ming did not participate. He sat cross-legged on the warship, wholeheartedly refining the concept runes, and refining the energy to break through. Boom! Not long after, a powerful aura erupted from Lu Ming's body and rushed into the sky, attracting many people's attention. He broke through? Chu Luo, Mo Yi, and other experts looked at Lu Ming with shock in their eyes. He only wandered around the battlefield once, and his cultivation actually broke through. Moreover, at such a young age, he actually broke through to the 5th level of the spirit god realm. It was really shocking. Lu Ming's aura erupted and in the next moment, it was restrained. However, Lu Ming did not end his cultivation. Instead, he continued to refine the concept runes that he devoured. He had devoured dozens of concept runes from experts. At the very least, they were all above the 6th level of the spirit god realm. Their comprehension of the concept of heaven and earth was very profound. Lu Ming had to spend a lot of effort to refine them. Half an hour later, the battlefield was cleaned up. The army gathered and prepared to fight the next force, the 100 Beast tribe. Speed was crucial in war. They had to set off immediately. At this time, Lu Ming finished refining and got up to the front of the army. Set off for the 100 Beast tribe, Lu Ming ordered. The army reboarded the warship and set off for the 100 Beast tribe. As for the people who surrendered, they were engraved with a formation in their sea of consciousness to follow them to fight the 100 Beast tribe. Only a few people were left to guard the mountain-piercing sect headquarters. The warship tore through the air, flying towards the 100 Beast tribe at an astonishing speed. Lu Ming sat cross-legged in one of the warship's room, continuing to refine the concept runes. In the blink of an eye, half a day, the 100 Beast tribe, Lu Ming had finally refined the concept runes he had devoured. Was the concept of wind, concept of fire, concept of thunder, and concept of water have all reached greater mastery of the 4th level. The concept of earth has also reached the peak of lesser mastery of the 4th level. My cultivation has risen to the 5th level of the spirit god realm as well. The improvement this time is really great. However, it's too fast, so it's filled with impurities, causing my foundation to be unstable. I won't be able to continue devouring and improving in a short period of time. Teet. Lu Ming got up, walked out of the room, and came to the deck of the warship, looking into the distance. In front of him, thousands of miles away, countless spires appeared. These spires were all made of stone, and they were like sharp spikes that stood tall on the boundless grassland. This was the 100 Beast tribe. It could be said to be the most powerful tribe in the northern plains, an ancient tribe with an incomparably long history. Each of the spires was glowing, and the light from each spires gathered together to form a large formation, enveloping the 100 Beast tribe. Countless figures appeared in the 100 Beast tribe. Some rode on battle beasts, hovering in the air, while others stood on the ground, forming a battle formation. Regardless of gender, they were all strong and burly, full of valiant aura. Obviously, the 100 Beast tribe had received the news of the battle at the mountain-piercing sect, and had made preparations in advance. The warship stopped, and Lu Ming and the others flew out, stopping in front of the 100 Beast tribe. Boom! Boom! Two terrifying auras erupted. Chu Luo and Mo Yi stepped out, and the aura of an emperor spread toward the 100 Beast tribe. At this time, another aura rose from the 100 Beast tribe, and a burly middle-aged man stepped out, floating in the air, exuding a shocking aura. There was no doubt that he was an emperor, the leader of the 100 Beast tribe, the barbarian emperor. Chu Luo, it's really you, but I don't think your appetite is that big. First you destroyed the mountain-piercing sect, and now you came to my 100 Beast tribe. It seems that you're one of the chaotic Sky Divine Emperor's men, the barbarian emperor said. Previously, Xiao Wan had led his army to attack other forces, so the barbarian emperor obviously knew their background. Barbarian emperor, since you already know, I advise you to surrender. Otherwise, you'll end up like the mountain-piercing sect. Chu Luo said coldly. Haha, my 100 Beast tribe has a long history, and there has never been a case of surrendering before a battle. If you want to attack, then let's fight. The barbarian emperor laughed loudly, incomparably domineering. After he finished speaking, a yellow rod appeared above the barbarian emperor's head. It floated above the barbarian emperor's head and rapidly grew in size, emitting an extremely shocking fluctuation. An emperor's spiritual weapon. You also have an emperor's spiritual weapon. Chu Luo and Mo Yi exclaimed at the same time, and their eyes were filled with shock. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Back in the Saint Mansion's secret territory, there were a total of 4 emperor's spiritual weapons. He had obtained one, and Yang Patian, Tuoba Shi, and Monk Wuliang had each obtained one. Lu Ming's gaze swept across the area, and indeed, he saw Tuoba Shi in front of the 100 Beast tribe. Tuoba Shi came from the 100 Beast tribe, and he must have obtained this emperor's spiritual weapon from the Saint Mansion's secret territory. Let's fight. Even if my 100 Beast tribe loses, don't think that you'll have an easy time. The barbarian emperor's eyes were filled with malice. Chu Luo and Mo Yi's faces were solemn. The barbarian emperor's combat strength was already very strong, and he was even slightly stronger than Chu Luo. Coupled with the emperor's spiritual weapon, his combat strength was even stronger. Even if the two of them joined forces, they might not be able to win. Even if they joined forces with Yin Kuangtu, whose combat strength was barely at the emperor realm, it was hard to say. Even if they could win, if the barbarian emperor fought to the death, it was not impossible to drag one of them down with him. Even if they could win this battle, it would be a Pyrrhic victory. However, at this point, they had no choice but to fight. Barbarian Emperor, since you're so stubborn, we can only fight and destroy your 100 Beast tribe. Chu Luo spoke and stepped out, his battle intent even stronger. Wait a minute. At this moment, Lu Ming suddenly spoke. Chu Luo frowned and glanced at Lu Ming with a trace of displeasure in his eyes, but when he thought of Xiao Wan's words, he held it in and stopped in his tracks. Lu Ming stepped out and came to the front. Most of the 100 Beast tribe's people's eyes fell on Lu Ming. They were secretly surprised, not knowing where Lu Ming came from to be able to make an Emperor Realm expert obey his orders. Oh, wait a minute, made an Emperor Realm expert stop in his tracks. Lu Ming, it's him. Chapter 1184. What? He's Lu Ming? So he's Lu Ming, the one who defeated all the elites in the Middle Continent's sacred city. Everyone in the 100 Beast tribe was shocked by Tuobashir's words. Back then, during the million-year sacrificial ceremony of the ancient sage dynasty in the sacred city, Lu Ming had consecutively defeated giant-level geniuses. He was already famous in the divine wilderness continent and was regarded as an unparalleled genius, second only to Long Chen. They didn't expect to see Lu Ming here. At this moment, not only Chu Luo, Mo Yi, and the rest, but even the people from the 100 Beast tribe were curious. They did not know why Lu Ming had stopped Chu Luo. Lu Ming glanced at the 100 Beast tribe and looked at the barbaric emperor. He said in a clear voice, "The 100 Beast tribe has a long history. Wouldn't it be a pity if it were to be destroyed? Barbaric emperor, why don't we make a bet?" A bet. Many people were surprised. A bet? How? You want to make a bet with me? What are we betting on? How? The barbaric emperor asked. Let's bet on the issue between us and the 100 Beast tribe. This bet, if I win, the 100 Beast tribe will surrender unconditionally. If I lose, I will bring my people and leave immediately. From now on, I will never set foot in the territory of the 100 Beast tribe. Lu Ming said. Everyone was shocked by his words. It was a huge bet on the fate of the 100 Beast tribe. How should we bet? The barbaric emperor asked again. It's simple. Tuobashir is a peerless elite with great combat strength. Let's bet on my battle with Tuobashir, Lu Ming said. Lu Ming, let's not bet. I know you're powerful, and I'm no match for you. Before Lu Ming could finish, Tuobashir interrupted Lu Ming. That's right. Lu Ming, I can see that your cultivation has reached the level 5 spirit god realm. Tuobashir is no match for you. The barbaric emperor said. Those words caused the 100 Beast tribe and Tuobashir to reveal astonished expressions. Especially Tuobashir. He was very clearly aware that Lu Ming was only at the 3rd level of the spirit god realm when they were in the holy city. How long had it been since then? Yet Lu Ming had entered the 5th level of the spirit god realm. This was too terrifying and too abnormal. Listen to me first. What I mean is that I will suppress my cultivation level to the same level as Tuobashir's. Tuobashir's current cultivation level should be at the peak of the 3rd level of the spirit god realm. I will also suppress my cultivation level to the 3rd level of the spirit god realm. Moreover, I will only bet on one move. I will defeat Tuobashir in one move. If I can't defeat Tuobashir in one move, I will lose the battle. Lu Ming said. As soon as he said that, everyone was shocked. Defeating Tuobashir in one move at the same level? How could this be? What? You suppressed your cultivation to the 3rd level of the spirit god realm and defeated me in one move. Tuobashir widened his eyes and glared at Lu Ming in anger. This was an insult to him. That's right. Tuobashir, do you dare? Lu Ming said. Why wouldn't I dare? Lu Ming, I agree to fight with you. No one at the same level as me can defeat me in one move. Tuobashir strode forward with anger in his eyes as he glared at Lu Ming. Yes, Tuobashir didn't believe that there was anyone at the same level as him who could defeat him in one move. This was impossible. Long Chen was able to defeat him in one move during the Battle of the Holy City, because Long Chen's cultivation base was higher than his. At that time, Tuobashir had just reached the 3rd level of the spirit god realm, while Long Chen was definitely at the 4th level of the spirit god realm, or even stronger. He was also very clear about Lu Ming's strength. When Lu Ming fought Ming Zi, it was quite difficult for him. He had to exchange many moves to defeat Ming Zi. Tuobashir's strength wasn't weaker than Yang Potion's. Yang Patian was ranked 3rd among the 5 giants of the central continent. Even if he was weaker than Ming Zi, it was only by a little. Now Tuobashir was even stronger. Moreover, he had recently made a breakthrough in one of his secret techniques, which leaned towards defense. Tuobashir was originally leaning towards defense. Even Yang Potion's space intent couldn't break through his defense. Now that his defense was even stronger, his confidence was greatly boosted. He thought that he could suppress Yang Patian. Therefore, he didn't fear Lu Ming in a battle of the same level. Now, Lu Ming actually said that he could defeat him in one move. This was an insult to him. which made him furious. Old ancestor, let him fight with me. Let's bet on this. I will definitely make them retreat. Tuobashir looked at the barbaric emperor. The barbaric emperor frowned slightly. He couldn't figure out Lu Ming's strength. However, he had the same thoughts as Tuobashir. Tuobashir's talent was extremely rare in the history of the 100-Beast tribe. He was much stronger than the barbaric emperor when he was young. He also didn't believe that Lu Ming could defeat Tuobashir in one move at the same level. All right, I'll bet with you in this battle, the barbaric emperor said after pondering for a moment. All right, barbaric emperor, let's make a blood oath. After all, this matter is of great importance. It won't be good if one side goes back on their word, Lu Ming said. However, I want to know if you can make the decision. If you agree and they go back on their word, what will you do? The barbaric emperor looked at Chu Luo and Mo Yi. I'm the supreme commander. I have full authority to make the decision, Lu Ming said. His words shocked the barbaric emperor and the others. They found it hard to believe that Lu Ming was the supreme commander, leading an army that included the emperor realm experts. Commander, please think thrice. Chu Luo, Mo Yi, and the others spoke to Lu Ming through voice transmission. They had heard of Tuobashir's name, but they found it hard to believe that Lu Ming could defeat Tuobashir in one move at the same level. There's no need to say more. I have my own plans. Lu Ming waved his hand, interrupting Chu Luo and the others. Seeing this, the barbaric emperor was relieved and made a blood oath with Lu Ming. If Lu Ming was defeated, the army would withdraw. If Lu Ming won, the 100-Beast tribe would surrender unconditionally. Patriarch, if Lu Ming really wins, what should we do? A venerable from the 100-Beast tribe asked the barbaric emperor worriedly through voice transmission. I've also considered this matter. Now that the world is in chaos, the major forces are at war with each other. No force can stay out of this and will be implicated. The war will come sooner or later. If we don't handle it well, our tribe will be annihilated. If Lu Ming can really defeat Tuobashir in one move, it will prove that he is a heaven-defying talent. His future will be limitless. If he doesn't die, there's a high possibility that he will dominate the divine wilderness in the future. It might not be a bad choice for us to submit to him. The barbarian emperor secretly transmitted his voice to that paragon, telling him what he was thinking. As the barbaric emperor, he had lived for a long time. Naturally, he wouldn't agree to the bet with Lu Ming on a whim. He had thought it through carefully. In fact, Lu Ming had also considered this point. His current cultivation was still weak. If he relied on his cultivation, he wouldn't be able to intimidate the crowd. Therefore, he had to show his advantage. His advantage was his talent and his age. He was still young, in the golden age of a cultivator. His future was limitless. Only by displaying his astonishing talent would these big shots be intimidated and be willing to submit to him. Just like how Ciel Wan agreed to form an alliance with him because of this point. Lu Ming, let's fight. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.